So in this video, I'm going to give you a great exercise for pitch, and I'm going to show you how you can play around with your tone. My name's Kate, and I've been singing formally for over 30 years, and I'm here to help people find and sing with their authentic voice. So pitch is basically just the frequency of your note. Is it going to be a higher frequency, a lower frequency? Now, when we're talking about tone, we're talking about the color of your voice. How does it sound? And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. Versus, and if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. So first, let's talk about pitch. In Western music, you have this chromatic scale. It's basically, if you look at the whole layout of a piano and you play every single note, that's the chromatic scale. So going from white to black, white to black, white to white, because there's no black note, and on and on and on. And what you can do to improve your pitch is to practice singing on a chromatic scale. So we're gonna do that today. So if you have a keyboard in front of you, please use it. Or if not, you can just sing along with me, or you can get a piano app if that helps you. Use a guitar or another instrument. And you're just basically going to go up by semitone. Now in Western music, these are the tones that we use. These are the complete frequencies that we use in Western music. This is not like Eastern music, which has microtones and things like that. We're just going to work on the pitch within this framework. We're just going to start on C, and we're just going to hum, and we're going to match our voice with each note. And what this is going to do for you is it's going to help build a muscle memory for the pitch. So the more that you practice this, and the larger you expand this practice, bringing your range lower and bringing your range higher, even than we're going to do in this video, the more that you're going to see that your whole body and brain are going to remember where the center of the tone is. So we'll start on C, and we're just going to take a nice deep breath. Make sure that you're relaxed. Do a little half yawn. Make sure that you take a nice deep breath. And we're just going to hum it, and we're going to go up slowly, trying to focus on the center of the note. Now we're going to do the same thing going up faster, and we're going to hum it. Once we get to the high C, we'll take a breath, but we'll try and go through it without breathing. If you need to breathe somewhere in between, it's okay. And I don't want you to think about anything else really, like in terms of projecting, vibrato, resonance. I just want you to think about the pitch itself and focus on that. And this is why, again, I love to play with the piano. I talked about this in another video. It really helps you to sync your voice to the note. It gives you this great reference point for your pitch. So now we're going to do it on a ni. Ni, ni, ni. Ready? And you'll hear that around that upper range there, the B and the C, my voice kind of like got a little bit fuzzy. And that's because that's where my passaggio is. There's a video on that. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it, which is where I'm switching over into head voice, typically beyond that B and C area. So it's okay if things are a little bit muddy there. We're going to just try it again on a ni. And just focusing on the pitch again, not worrying if things get lighter towards the higher end, but just trying to focus on making the pitch itself accurate. And if I wanted to expand upon this practice, I could definitely start to go higher. I could incorporate that passaggio transition, but that's going to be kind of a more advanced exercise. We're just going to stick with this one for now. So we'll do it just one more time. Here we go. So let me know how that was for you in the comments below. Now let's talk about tone. If we take the example of Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, great tune. That's going to be our pitch. And my tone can change based on a lot of variables. So I'm just going to sing it this way. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. That's what I kind of call a shallow pop voice. There's not really much resonance. It might sound good in a very close vocal mic, but other than that, it's kind of flat, all right? So if you want to change your tone, you're going to need to start playing around with things like air control, diaphragmatic control. You're going to want to play around a lot with resonance, which is how is the note, once you've passed through the area of pitch, now how are you shaping your note? How are you shaping your vowel? Where are you positioning the note within the chamber of your chest, within the chamber of your face? Are you placing your resonance here? Are you placing it here? Are you placing it here? So it's a little bit tricky if you're just coming from a point of like, what's the difference between those three? How do I even get resonance? So first we'll try and find our resonance and start there, and then we're going to play around with it a little bit. So I want you to think about this song in a kind of speaking tone. It's pretty close to kind of like where you would speak these pitches, and I want you to kind of speak it. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. So that's kind of where you're going to get a little bit more resonance in it, is just by positioning it the same way you would as if you were speaking it. You're going to find your kind of natural resonance placement. For me, it's kind of over here. And then what I'm going to do is supply it with more air, supply it with more support, supply it with more warmth and more energy from my body. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. And that creates a nice, deep, round, warm tone. Let's try that again. Nice, deep breath, thinking of speaking it, except for with more pressure coming from down here. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. Now, we're going to do the same thing, except for this time, I'm going to focus my note over here, kind of like at the top of my nose. And I'm going to shift up the resonance here. I can even try it right now while I'm talking. I'm just going to shift a little bit, and then I'm going to sing it like that. Same amount of air coming through here. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. So there's a difference there between the first way that I sang it and the second way. The tone has kind of changed. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more of a mixed voice tone. It's kind of like positioned in a different way, feeling a little bit more buoyant and a little bit less heavy. So let's try that again. We're just going to be focusing right over here. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. That's also really nice and poppy and a lot more supported than the kind of non-resonant version. Now, the last thing I want us to do is imagine that you're aiming your note way up here or maybe up here at the top of your head. I want you to shift to a higher resonance like I'm doing right now with my speaking voice. You see? And you can practice with me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now my resonance is up here, and now I'm going to sing it again. Ready? And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. And there I got a really nice mixed voice. I really incorporated some of my head voice tone in there, and I've got a totally different tone from the first one. Just to compare them, we're going to do one more on the lower one and then go all the way up to this high one here. So just start with a regular speaking tone. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. And now we're going to focus it up here. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. And that's how you, ladies and gentlemen, can play around with your tone and still do it in a way that's very authentic, that's going to be well supported, that's going to be on pitch because you've done all of those pitch warm-ups and workouts and you're stable in your pitch. And then you can basically just kind of play around with that resonance and see where it sounds good and see where it feels good and see what's the kind of sound that you're going for with your track. And this is all by these very kind of imaginary and abstract things like pointing your note in different directions. And that is the reality of singing. There are some things that we can really physically feel, like when we're having an open chest and when we're breathing into our diaphragm. And then there's other things that we really just have to imagine. And somehow, miraculously, via the body and brain, we're able to dial around our voices in different ways and come out with some really, really cool sounds. So I hope that this clears it up. This was based on a comment from somebody on, what's the difference between tone and pitch? I'm not really sure about the verbiage. So thank you so much for leaving your comments. These are the kind of things that really help me to find videos to cater for you guys, for where you're at, for any difficulties or challenges that you're facing as a singer. And so I really appreciate that. So let me know if there's any other kind of techniques that you would like me to cover here. Let me know how these exercises went for you. I hope that that clears everything up and that you can now go have some fun experimenting with shifting your resonance around and finding different kinds of tones that are all within the home of your authentic voice. Thank you so much. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain.